Displaying vast and outlandish creatures has always been a draw for the Natural History Museum. In 1937, the museum embarked on one of the most ambitious projects it had ever undertaken. Desiring an exhibit that would both astound and educate, construction began on a model of the largest animal that has ever lived, the blue whale.
It really was a huge, huge feat. The amount of resources, manpower and everything else that went into the model, just before the start of the Second World War, I think, if they'd left it any later, possibly the model would never have been constructed.
The mammoth task of creating a 90-foot whale had fallen to the museum's chief model maker, Percy Stanwitz. Using photographs and scientific records, Percy and his team toiled for 18 months, building the model in situ in the newly opened Whale Hall. Constructed on a wooden subframe covered in wire mesh and expertly sculpted in plaster of Paris, the finished model weighed in at over 6 tons.
The actual construction itself was a work of art and a great work of science. Ironically, things that the team complained about was seasickness, because the model actually began to sway as they were applying the colour and the external characteristics. So in order to prevent the guys feeling seasick, they actually had to block the model up to stop it from moving.
Seasickness aside, the exhibit opened in December 1938 to great public acclaim.
The initial reaction from people was just complete and utter awe.
70 years later, the blue whale has lost none of its power. Even Richard is still bewitched, acknowledging the model as the inspiration for his career.
I visited on a school trip here in 1976, and I stood pretty much in this spot, and I do remember the sense of fascination and complete shock, I think. I just couldn't quite get it into my head that something could grow so large, and I had no idea that I'd ever end up working in a place like this, and let alone be responsible for the model.
The blue whale is as popular as ever, and looks set to continue to amaze and inspire visitors for generations to come.
I think the popularity of the specimen has endured because of the physical size, the impact, the awe that's inspired in people. You know, people come back to us, they've gone to university, they've become marine biologists, and they often cite the whale hall and the blue whale model as some of their main influences. So to have a life-size model, I think, is something that we should be incredibly proud of.